live at 1.
All right, you're still watching NBS television. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Mildred Tuhaise, and this is time for NBS Live at 1. Let's take a look at the stories that are making the headlines and still developing. I am Mildred Tuhaise. Now, the High Court in Soroti is set to deliver judgment in 3 election petitions filed against Soroti East Member of Parliament Herbert Edmund Ariko, NRM, Soroti West Member of Parliament Jonathan Ebwalu, and Toroma County Member of Parliament Joseph Andrew Kolo. These were dragged to court following contests over the legality of Alouette and OPI wards and accusations of election malpractices. Let's get Eddie Enuru with the details, and at a later stage, of course, we'll be joined from Fort Portal with Julius Nabimanya, and from Lira, we will as well get to our correspondent, Isaac Otwi. Eddie Enuru, what is the feeling in the courts of law following the pronouncement, the long-awaited one?
A very good afternoon, Mildred. I'm coming to you live from the High Court, Soroti High Court. As you can see, I've just come out of the High Court, just right there behind me, where His Lordship Musana Sekana is delivering the rulings right away. Now, the Soroti High Court will today deliver the ruling of the 3 members of Parliament petitions filed against them. Now, the members of Parliament, like you've said, whose fate will be determined today right here in this High Court. Herbert Edmund Ariko for Soroti City East, and that is NRM. And then we have the Soroti City West Member of Parliament Jonathan Ebwalu, and of course for Toroma County, that is Andrew Joseph Kolo. Now the court will determine their fate of being in Parliament today right here. Now, of course, what we know is that a section of locals are querying the legality of Alouette and OPI wards in participation, and of course in the recently by-election. They are querying this, and of course they're asking why these particular wards, 2 wards, voted twice. Also, when we look at the other case of Moses Okiatan, Moses Okiatan is challenging, of course, Herbert Edmund Ariko of Soroti City East of allegations of malpractice and of course militarization, if I could put that one, militarization of the voting process. Now all this, Mildred will be giving you much more details of this, but of course, like I've told you, the ruling is ongoing right now. Of course, His Lordship started with Jonathan Ebwalu, Soroti City West, as I just came out, but it will later on move into Toroma and later on wind up with Soroti City East election petition, that is for Herbert Edmund Ariko and Okia Moses, the FDC. Mildred, I'll be giving you much more details of this story in our subsequent bulletins, but that is what is happening right here in the Soroti High Court. Back to you at the Political Command Center.
Thank you very much. Hearts pumping, definitely, but we'll be getting back to you. Now, Isaac Otwi is joining us, rather reporting on a health matter where court has sentenced a 27-year-old woman to 7 years in jail for intentional transmission of HIV/AIDS after she injected her 5-year stepson with her blood. This is after Colin Odiek pleaded guilty to the charge, saying she was revenging against the child's father, whom she thought had infected her. Isaac Otwi, quite a sad one, emotional, although health-related. Let's take a look at the genesis of this story.
Well, of course, Mildred, it was quite a cynic, of course, a court sitting that we saw the father of the 5-year-old weeping in court while standing in the dock, and alongside was this woman, his wife, who was also standing in the dock, and when she pleaded guilty, of course, to these charges that was read against her, court had to sentence her. But some facts that the prosecution presented to court was that the child has been living with this virus for over a year now, that he has been living with the virus. And all this time, the father had no idea that his son had been injected with this blood. Not until late last year, when the son started narrating to him how he was injected by the stepmother with the blood. And this prompted the local leaders to start right the process of saying that a woman is brought to book, and they were reported to the local council, one who instead took the matter to police. Now, it is from that moment when this woman was arrested, and yesterday she was arraigned before the Lira Grade 1 Magistrate Court, who delivered justice for the young boy. But one fact is that this young boy will have to live with the virus for the rest of his life. And that is the one thing that, of course, the father, that's why the father had to weep in court, crying for his son. But the 7 years handed is one thing that it is being talked about by the rights activists, who says it may not be enough to provide justice for this 5-year-old who will have to live with the virus for the rest of his life. Mildred, for now, let me hand over back to you at the Political Command Center.
Thank you very much, Isaac Otui. Quite very sad happening there. Well, intentional transmission is definitely abominable under the laws of Uganda. But let's move on to another discussion with regard to immigrant workers, where the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development is considering review of the policy on the externalization of labour to minimize the risks of immigrant workers as many become victims of trafficking. The State Minister for Gender, Peace Mutuzo, says they are currently facing challenges with the contractual breaches, even for workers who use the legal revenues. Now, Julius Nabimanya will be speaking to the minister to understand the plan on the new policy. Julius Nabimanya, good afternoon. Take it up.
Much, Mildred, a need for a new policy that would protect Ugandans who go abroad for work is our discussion this afternoon. And as you rightly said, I have the State Minister for Gender, Labour and Social Development, Peace Mutuzo, who is here to give us details of this report, to understand how big is the challenge and preparations of the ministry to address it. You are welcome, Honorable. We are live on NBS. How big is this problem, and how do you want to handle it as a ministry?
We have been working on the contracts and the memorandums of understanding with different countries, especially in the Middle East, where they do not conform to the international labor laws. So we have memorandums of understanding with each country. And when a person moves under the legal companies here which are registered, they also sign another contract with a recruitment company where they go in the Middle East, and also with the person who is employing them. So when there is a breach of a contract with a person who is employing a Ugandan, maybe in his house or in his company, the matter shifts from being external labor and it goes to trafficking of persons. And trafficking of persons is treated under different laws. So it means that the companies which were externalizing people here legally get into another lacuna of having to address an issue of repatriating a person, paying him when they have not even gotten into the laws the other side to bargain on how this person is paid. So it is a big matter that requires addressing through the legal laws. So we have to review to be in tandem with the international labor laws that govern us. But I'm sure you know that there is also trafficking of persons in inland here locally, which is also a very big matter. We found about 130 trafficked in Masaka, I think 2 months ago. But
Honorable, before we get to here locally, how would the new policy address this challenge you're talking about?
Because the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development is one which develops regulations and guidelines, we have to address this matter into one law. Now, as we stand right now, these regulations and all labor laws that guide externalization of labor under the Ministry of Gender, it is one which gives the framework, the guidelines, the rules and procedure, but the trafficking of persons is under another ministry, the Ministry of Internal Affairs, if it is internal trafficking of persons, and if it is an external trafficking of persons, it is under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So we have to put them under one legal framework, where we are able to save the risk of people who have been moved to other countries to work legally through our companies. We have also to protect their business, are looked at as though they were trafficked.
Okay.
When somebody breaches a contract beyond the means of ways here in Uganda.
Honorable, let me turn your attention to this recent incidents of trafficking. You know, Fort Portal High Court has remanded some people who trafficked some people from different areas to Fort Portal here. What are you doing as a ministry to this local trafficking?
And that is part of our efforts. Because when I went to Masaka, I found 130. When I was interviewing them and the investigations went on, we established that the Kabarore, Fort Portal specifically, has the biggest recruitment center of trafficking of persons inland here. They bring them up with illicit trade. They bring them under the guise of trading in maybe medicine, local herbs, but eventually they are recruited into subversive activities, either prostitution or others are taken to Congo and many other countries for subversive activities. And we are happy that at least for now, the Ministry of Justice has shown it up and has been able to reprimand some. So I'm sure these efforts are going to yield good results. We are going to break the chain and the cartel of people being trafficked under the guise of inviting them for work, which is not there.
Thank you so much, Honorable.
You're welcome.
Well, Mildred, that's it. Actually, it was Fort Portal Chief Magistrate Court that recently remanded 5 people on these cases of trafficking to Katojo Prison here in Fort Portal Tourism City. But the good thing now, from what we get from Honorable Minister, is that the both ministries, Ministry of Justice and the Ministry of Gender, have a plan to have this problem solved. For now, that's what we have from Bunyangabo District. Back to you at the Political Command Center.
Much, Julius Navimanya, and I love the working concertedly together and not just in silos, just to be able to deal out with human trafficking issues in the guise of creating jobs overseas. You're still watching NBS Live at 1. Let's take a short break. When we do return, more news still end up.
Friday from Airtel. Buy or gift. Buy or give.
Get freaky too! Dial *149*10# to load a Freaky Friday bundle for you to enjoy the best offers on voice and data.
To buy a bundle for friends and family, dial *149*10*5#. Freaky Friday with Airtel. Buy or gift a bundle today. Dial *149*10# to get started. Airtel, the smartphone network.
National Medical Stores is a government agency mandated to buy, store and distribute medicines and medical supplies to